Lyra stood outside the tall glass building with her hands pressed tightly together. The city was alive with lights and sounds, but she felt small in the middle of it all. Her dress was patched in many places, the cloth rough and old, different from the smooth, glowing fabrics of the aliens walking past her. She had fixed it again and again, but nothing could hide the truth. It looked poor. Every time she caught her reflection in the shining wall, she wanted to turn away. She almost did, but her legs would not move. She had promised herself she would try. Inside the lobby, everything was shining. The walls looked like silver, and the floor lit up under each step. The front desk stood like a wall between her and her chance. Behind it, an alien receptionist with smooth blue skin tapped her long fingers on the surface. Her eyes scanned Lyra's outfit once, and her mouth curved in disgust. "Are you lost?" she asked in a voice sharp enough for everyone around to hear. Lyra shook her head. Her throat was dry, but she forced the words out. I came for the job notice. It said assistance needed." The receptionist tilted her head, her hair of golden strands catching the light. A laugh slipped out, cruel and loud. "Assistance? Here? With that rag on you? We need professionals, not beggars." The few aliens waiting in line turned their heads, some covering their mouths as they whispered, some laughing openly. Their eyes burned into Lyra's skin like fire. She lowered her gaze, her fingers twisting in the cloth of her dress. Each word from them pushed her down like stones. She wanted to explain, wanted to say she was smart, that she learned quickly, that she would work harder than anyone, but no sound left her mouth. Her heart thumped painfully in her chest. The receptionist leaned forward, enjoying the moment. "Go back where you belong. This place is not for you." She waved her hand as if pushing dirt aside. Lyra's ears grew hot, and shame pressed hard on her shoulders. She nodded slowly and turned away, her feet heavy as iron. The doors behind her seemed so far, but she began walking, thinking she should leave before more laughter followed. A sudden silence fell. Not the normal silence of a quiet room, but the heavy kind when everyone stops breathing. Lyra froze, confused, and slowly looked up. The tall office door near the end of the lobby had opened. A man stepped out. He was human. Tall, with dark eyes that seemed to see everything, he carried no glowing robe or fine jewels. His suit was simple, but the way he stood made the air feel different. Every worker straightened, every laugh died in their throat. His gaze moved across the lobby like a blade. Then it stopped on her. Lyra's heart jumped. His eyes met hers, steady and unreadable. He studied her for what felt like forever. She wanted to look away, but she could not. The laughter, the whispers, all vanished into silence. The receptionist swallowed nervously and tried to speak. "Sir, she..." The man raised his hand, cutting her off without a word. His voice was calm, but it carried like thunder. "Hire her. Right now." Gasps echoed through the hall. The receptionist's mouth fell open, but no sound came. The workers stared in shock. Some blinked, thinking they misheard. Others whispered in disbelief. Why would the human boss, the director himself, defend a poor girl in rags? Lyra stood frozen, unable to understand what had just happened. Her breath caught and her chest tightened. Had he really said that? Was this real? The receptionist tried again, her voice shaking now. "But, sir, she's not qualified. Look at her." The human boss's eyes turned cold, sharper than steel. "I said hire her." His tone left no space for argument. He stepped forward, signed a paper on the desk with swift strokes, and placed it down. "She starts today." The silence grew heavier. No one dared to argue further. The receptionist's lips trembled as she looked from the paper to Lyra. Finally, with stiff fingers, she handed over the badge. Her eyes burned with anger, but she dared not say more. Lyra stared at the badge in her hands. Her fingers shook as she held it. The letters on it proved it was real. She was now part of the company. A place she thought she would never belong to, a place where even stepping inside had felt impossible, was now opening its doors to her. She looked up, but the human boss had already turned and walked back toward his office. No extra words, no smile, no explanation. Only the command that had changed everything. The whispers slowly returned, softer now, filled with confusion. Why her? What does he see in that girl? This makes no sense. But no one dared laugh anymore. Lyra stood in the middle of the shining lobby, still clutching her badge. Her dress was the same, her shoes still worn, but something had changed. Everyone had seen it. For the first time in her life, someone with power had looked at her. Not as trash, not as a beggar, but as someone worth keeping. Her heart raced faster than it ever had, and yet, for the first time, she felt a spark of hope. Lyra sat in the corner of the grand office, the badge still heavy in her hand. She had been given a seat, a desk, and a uniform that was too big for her thin frame, but she wore it with care. Everything felt unreal. Just yesterday, she was walking the streets, invisible to all, and now she was here, inside a place where aliens in shining clothes worked with confidence and pride. The receptionist's sharp eyes followed her whenever she passed, filled with anger and jealousy. Whispers floated in the air like smoke, curling around her ears. Some said she was lucky. Others said she must have tricked the boss. Nobody believed she deserved it. Lyra herself could not understand. Why had the human boss chosen her? Why had he spoken those words in front of everyone? She remembered the strength in his voice, the way silence had filled the room after he spoke. She remembered the shock on every face. But the reason, she did not know. She wanted to ask him, but fear kept her silent. She thought maybe it was a mistake, and any day they would throw her out. That evening, long after most workers had left, she stayed behind. She wanted to learn the machines, the glowing screens, the tools at each station. Her fingers traced wires and panels, her eyes studying every detail. When a machine hummed weakly, she crouched beside it, feeling the vibration through the floor. She touched the panel, listening to the faint noise inside. Something was wrong with the circuit. She picked up a tool, unsure if she was allowed, but her hands moved without thought. The connection clicked, the hum grew strong, and the machine lit up fully. Lyra smiled faintly, proud but also nervous someone might see. She did not know someone was already watching. From the shadow of the hall, the human boss leaned against the wall, arms crossed. He had returned for forgotten papers, but instead found her bent over the machine, working with focus. He did not interrupt, only studied her movements. There was no training in those hands, no polished technique, yet every action was right. She fixed the problem in less time than his trained engineers. When she finished, she sat back on her knees, brushing dust from her patched sleeves. She sighed quietly, thinking she was alone, but then a deep voice broke the silence. "Who taught you that?" Lyra jumped, her heart racing as she turned. The boss stepped into the light, his dark eyes locked on her. She opened her mouth, but no sound came. Her fingers trembled. She wanted to explain, but feared she had broken a rule. "Well?" he asked again, softer this time. Her lips moved, and finally the words slipped out in a whisper. "No one. I just see how things fit." The boss tilted his head, his gaze sharper now. "You see it? Not learn? Not study?" Lyra nodded weakly. "I don't know how, but when I look at machines, I can tell what is wrong. It feels like they speak." Her cheeks burned with embarrassment. It sounded foolish when she said it aloud, but the boss did not laugh. His face did not change, but his eyes held something else. Recognition. He had seen this before, a long time ago, in another colony, in another war. He remembered eyes like hers, hands that moved with natural instinct, not training. Survivors of a destroyed people, a rare skill buried in history. He took a step closer, lowering his voice. "Keep this to yourself. Do you understand?" Lyra blinked in confusion. Why? Because people fear what they do not understand, and fear turns quickly into hate. His words were quiet, but they carried weight. Her heart pounded. She looked down at her hands, the same hands that had been mocked, the same hands that had stitched her dress again and again, now being spoken of as something dangerous. She wanted to ask more, but the boss turned and walked toward his office door. Before leaving, he said one more thing. "You belong here. Don't forget that." Lyra sat frozen, her mind spinning. She wanted to believe him, but doubt clawed at her. The other workers laughed at her every chance they got. The receptionist looked ready to cut her down with every glare. Yet, the boss's words replayed in her head again and again. "You belong here." The next morning, whispers grew louder. Why is she still here? The boss must be blind. Maybe she tricked him with pity. Every cruel word pressed on her like weight. She walked past them, eyes lowered, her badge cold against her chest. But in the middle of the pain, she held on to one thought. Someone powerful had seen something in her, something even she did not see. Her nights were restless. She dreamed of strange lights, of broken machines calling to her, of fires burning in the sky. She woke with sweat on her brow, her chest tight. She did not know these dreams were memories hidden deep inside, fragments of a past she could not remember fully. At work, she moved silently, careful not to make mistakes. Yet, every time she touched a tool or panel, something inside her guided her. She fixed small things quietly, making sure no one noticed. But the boss noticed. Always. From a distance, his eyes followed her, calm but calculating. He saw what the others did not see. The receptionist, however, burned with hate. She could not understand why her boss would defend a girl in rags. Each time she saw Lyra, her lips curled with disgust. Each whisper she spread grew sharper, turning co-workers against the girl. But the more they mocked, the harder Lyra worked. The more they tried to shame her, the more she pushed forward. She did not know what fate awaited her. She did not know what secret was hidden inside her blood, nor why the boss had chosen her. All she knew was that she had been given a chance and she would not waste it. But the truth was clear to one man, the human boss. He had seen eyes like hers before, and he knew the danger and power that came with them. And he knew the day would come when the whole building, maybe the whole city, would find out who she truly was. Lyra sat at her desk, quiet and focused, while the noise of whispers followed her everywhere. The office was full of shining screens, glowing panels, and workers in perfect uniforms, but the sound that always reached her ears was laughter behind her back. No matter how hard she worked, someone always had something to say. She does not belong here. She only got the job because the human boss felt pity. Look at her clothes, still patched under the uniform. They thought she could not hear, but every word slid into her heart like a knife. The receptionist, who had mocked her from the start, made sure the whispers never stopped. She smiled sweetly whenever the boss was near, but spat poison the moment he was gone. She told anyone who would listen that Lyra was useless, that she had no training, that her presence lowered the company's honor. Others nodded, adding their own words. They could not understand why the human boss had chosen her. To them, she was still a ragged girl, pretending to be something she was not. But Lyra did not answer them. She bent her head, kept her eyes on the glowing desk screen, and pushed herself to learn everything as fast as she could. She read manuals until her eyes burned, memorized patterns in machines, and practiced after hours when no one was watching. Her body was tired, her hands sore, but she refused to stop. She thought if she worked hard enough, one day the whispers would end. Still, the whispers grew louder. She often felt her chest tighten, her breath shorten, and her eyes sting with unshed tears. Many nights she wanted to run away, to leave this shining building and never come back. But each time she remembered the voice of the boss. Hire her. Right now. The memory was like fire inside her, keeping her standing when she wanted to fall. One evening, the building was almost empty. The tall glass walls reflected the last glow of the sunset, painting the hall in orange light. Lyra stayed behind as usual, checking machines that others had left humming weakly. She crouched down, wiping sweat from her forehead as she examined a broken panel. She pressed her ear against it, listening to the faint buzz. Something inside told her exactly what was wrong. Without thinking, she picked up tools from the bench and began fixing it. Her small fingers moved quickly, connecting wires, adjusting circuits, and tightening screws. She forgot about the whispers, forgot about the pain in her back. In that moment, it was only her and the machine. She lost track of time as the hum turned stronger, the lights flickered, and finally the whole system came alive with a steady glow. She smiled faintly to herself, proud of what she had done, though no one would ever know. But someone had seen. At the far end of the hall, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, the human boss watched silently. He had returned for papers left in his office, but the sight of her bent over the machine held him in place. He did not move, did not speak, only studied her. His sharp eyes followed every motion of her hands, the way she worked with natural instinct. She had no training, no degree, yet she solved problems his best engineers would struggle with. When she finally sat back, wiping dust from her hands, he stepped forward. His voice broke the silence, low but steady. You stay late every night. Lyra jumped, her heart racing as she looked up. She almost dropped the tool in her hand. She stood quickly, bowing her head. I'm sorry, sir. I shouldn't touch the machines without permission. The boss walked closer, his footsteps echoing on the floor. His eyes were fixed on her, calm but intense. "You fixed it." She nodded weakly. "It was making the wrong sound. I just knew what to do." "Who taught you?" he asked, his voice sharper now. Her lips trembled. She wanted to lie, to say she had studied, that she had read manuals, but something in his gaze told her he would know the truth. Her voice came out as a whisper. "No one. I just see how things fit. It feels like the machines tell me what they need." The boss stared at her for a long moment. His eyes narrowed slightly, as if remembering something far away. He said nothing at first, and the silence pressed heavily on Lyra until she thought she might faint. Finally, he spoke, softer than before. "You have a gift, but you must keep it hidden." Her eyes widened. "Hidden? Why?" "Because people fear what they do not understand," he replied, "and fear turns quickly into hate." The words struck her deeply. She lowered her head, thinking of all the whispers, all the cruel laughter. They already hated her for her clothes, her background. What would they do if they knew she had something strange inside her, something they could never match? The boss stepped closer, his shadow falling over her. "Listen to me. Do your work. Keep your head down. But never forget, you belong here." He let the words sink in before turning away, walking back toward his office. His footsteps faded into silence, leaving Lyra standing alone. Her heart pounded wildly in her chest. She wanted to call after him, to ask what he meant, but no words came. She sat back down, staring at her hands. They looked normal, but to him, they were something more. She thought about the machine humming steadily beside her, alive because of her touch. The next morning, she walked through the lobby again. The receptionist glared and the whispers chased her like shadows, but something inside her had changed. The shame did not press as heavy. The doubt did not bite as deep. She still felt fear. Yes, but now it was mixed with something else. Hope. She worked quietly, fixing small things when no one looked, her mind always replaying his words. She belonged here. He had said it. Even if the others hated her, even if she did not yet understand why he chose her, she held on to that truth. But the whispers did not stop. In fact, they grew sharper. The boss watches her too closely. She's hiding something. Mark my words, she will bring trouble. Lyra kept her eyes down, her lips pressed tight. But deep inside, she knew something was coming. Something bigger than whispers. Something that would force everyone to see her for who she really was. The morning began with the sound of alarms. The great machine at the center of the building had stopped working. Its lights were dim, its panels cold, and the hum that usually filled the halls had fallen silent. Workers ran in every direction, their voices sharp with fear. The company had important visitors that day, trade inspectors from another world. If the machine stayed broken, the inspection would fail, and the whole company's name would be dragged through the mud. Engineers rushed to the machine, opening panels and pressing buttons. Sparks flew as one tried to restart it, but nothing worked. Sweat rolled down their faces as they argued, blaming each other, trying different fixes that all ended the same way: failure. The inspectors stood nearby, watching with frowns, whispering to one another. Time was running out, and the embarrassment grew heavier with every passing second. The receptionist, always eager to wound, let out a laugh that was loud enough for everyone to hear. Her voice cut through the chaos like a knife. "Why not let the little trash girl fix it?" she mocked, her eyes narrowing toward Lyra. The workers around her smirked, shaking their heads. Some chuckled, others whispered, "Yes, let her try. Then she'll prove how useless she really is." Lyra froze where she stood. She had been quietly organizing tools at the side, trying not to draw attention, but now every eye turned to her. Heat rushed to her cheeks, her hands trembled, and her heart hammered so hard she could barely breathe. She wanted to shrink into the floor, disappear into the walls, but she could not move. The inspectors raised their brows in curiosity, their sharp alien eyes studying her closely. One even asked coldly, "Is this what passes for staff here? A girl in rags?" The receptionist laughed again, proud of the insult. But before anyone could push her aside, something stirred inside Lyra. She looked at the great machine, and the silence of the room seemed to vanish. In her ears, she heard it, not with sound, but with feeling. A broken rhythm, a missing pulse. She knew exactly what was wrong. Her legs carried her forward before her mind could stop them. Gasps rose from the crowd as she stepped toward the machine. The receptionist hissed, "Stay back! You'll only make things worse." The engineers tried to block her, but she ducked past them, her hands moving with strange confidence. She knelt at the base, pressing her fingers against the cold surface. Her eyes scanned the wires, the circuits, the lights that blinked faintly like dying stars. In her mind, the picture formed itself. The flow was wrong, the connection broken at a hidden joint. She pulled open the panel, her fingers quick and sure. A wire sparked weakly, and without hesitation she stripped it, bent it, and tied it to another line. She reached deeper, adjusting the core unit with small, precise movements. Her hands worked faster than her thoughts, guided by something deeper, something that felt older than herself. The room grew silent. Workers leaned closer, forgetting their mockery. The inspectors whispered among themselves, curiosity replacing scorn. The receptionist clenched her teeth, her eyes wide with disbelief. Then it happened. The machine groaned, lights flickering once, twice, then glowing steady and bright. The hum returned, low and strong, filling the hall once more. The floor vibrated with power, the great system alive again. For a moment, no one spoke. Only the machine's steady rhythm filled the silence. Then a wave of gasps and murmurs broke out. The engineers stared in shock, unable to believe what they had seen. The inspectors stepped forward, nodding slowly, impressed despite themselves. One even muttered, "Remarkable. She repaired it faster than trained staff." The human boss stood at the edge of the room, his arms crossed, his eyes fixed on Lyra. He had not moved, not spoken, only watched every second of what happened. His expression was calm, but inside, he knew his choice had been right. This girl was no ordinary worker. Lyra pulled her hands back, her chest heaving, her fingers shaking. She stood slowly, her knees weak. She glanced around and felt the weight of every stare. For the first time, they were not filled with laughter or disgust. They were filled with shock, curiosity, even respect. But that respect was thin, fragile, mixed with something else, fear. The receptionist's face twisted with rage. Her words came out sharp, almost desperate. "It was luck. Nothing more. Do not be fooled. She is still just trash." But her voice trembled, and even she seemed unsure of her own claim. Lyra wanted to speak, to explain that she had not meant to shame anyone, that she had only wanted to help. But her throat closed, and no words came. She stood silently, her hands trembling, eyes lowered once again. The inspectors nodded in approval, recording notes into their glowing tablets. The machine was running. The inspection could continue, and the company would not be shamed. Yet the room's focus never left the girl who had done the impossible. The human boss finally stepped forward, his shoes clicking against the floor. He stopped beside Lyra, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. "Do you see now?" he asked, his voice calm but carrying like thunder. No one dared answer. He placed a hand on the machine, now alive and steady, then looked at Lyra once more. There was no smile on his face, but there was something in his eyes, something like pride, something like recognition. The crowd shifted uneasily. Whispers started again, but they were no longer cruel jokes. They were questions, doubts, and rumors waiting to spread. Lyra stood in the center, caught between fear and wonder. She had shown them what she could do, but deep inside, she knew the truth. Showing her gift had changed everything, and not all change was safe. The air in the office grew heavy after the day. Lyra repaired the great machine. Whispers ran through every hallway, sharper than before. Workers who once laughed at her now lowered their voices, but the sting of their words reached her ears anyway. She's strange. No one fixes a system like that without training. The boss favors her. There must be something between them. Every sentence was a stone pressed on her back. She kept her head down, kept working quietly, but her heart felt like a drum inside her chest. The receptionist's hatred grew darker. Her pride had been wounded when the girl she mocked in rags had done what trained engineers could not. She watched Lyra with sharp eyes, waiting for a mistake. Each time the boss praised her work with a simple nod or word, the receptionist's teeth clenched. Jealousy twisted in her chest like a knife. She told herself that this girl did not deserve to be here, that she was nothing more than a lucky stray. And so, she made a plan. Late at night, when the building was almost empty, the receptionist slipped into the records room. She pulled open drawers, searching through files with fast hands. Her eyes caught the perfect weapon, a set of restricted documents about trade shipments. She tucked them under her arm, her lips curling into a cruel smile. The next morning, she quietly placed them inside Lyra's desk drawer before anyone arrived. She imagined the look on the girl's face when the guards found them. She imagined the boss's disappointment, his words of anger. Finally, she thought the little stray would be thrown out and things would return to how they should be. The trap was set. Hours later, a security alarm blared through the building. Guards stormed into the office, their boots echoing on the bright floor. The workers froze, their eyes wide with fear. The captain of the guards held up a tablet and announced loudly, "There has been a theft. Restricted documents have gone missing. Every desk will be searched." Gasps filled the room. Workers turned to each other, whispering in panic. Lyra sat at her small desk, her hands trembling. She had done nothing wrong, yet her stomach twisted as the guards moved closer. She could feel the receptionist's eyes burning into her from across the hall. One by one, desks were searched, files checked, workers questioned. Then the guards reached her. The captain pulled open the drawer, and there it was, the set of restricted papers lying neatly inside. The room went silent, so silent she could hear her own heartbeat. The guards dragged the papers out and held them high. "Evidence," the captain said firmly. His sharp eyes turned to Lyra. "You are under suspicion of espionage." A wave of whispers burst like thunder around her. "I knew it. She's a spy." The boss was tricked. "I told you she was not normal." Their voices stabbed her from all sides. Lyra's eyes widened in shock. She shook her head desperately. No, I didn't put those there. I've never even seen them before." Her voice cracked with fear, but no one believed her. Guards grabbed her arms, pulling her to her feet. She struggled, but their grip was iron. Tears stung her eyes as she looked around the room. No one moved to help her. No one defended her. The receptionist smirked behind her hand, pretending to look shocked, but unable to hide the flicker of triumph in her eyes. The workers muttered, their gazes filled with suspicion and hate. The guards began dragging her forward, ready to take her away for questioning. Lyra's chest tightened, her breath fast and shallow. She wanted to scream, to break free, but her legs felt weak. She stumbled, her heart filled with terror. Was this how it ended? Would she be thrown into the dark, punished for something she did not do? Then a voice cut through the chaos. "Enough!" The word crashed into the room like thunder, making every head turn. The human boss had stepped forward. His eyes blazed with fury, his jaw tight. The guards froze at his command. Even the inspectors, who were still present for business, fell silent. He walked toward Lyra, his steps firm, his presence heavy like a storm. He stopped in front of her and glared at the guards. "Release her." The captain hesitated. "Sir, we found restricted documents in her desk." "Do you think I don't know what's happening in my own building?" The boss snapped, his voice like steel. "Release her." The guards obeyed, letting go of her arms. Lyra staggered slightly, her wrists red from their grip. She looked up at the boss with wide eyes, her throat tight with words she could not speak. He turned to the room, his voice sharp and clear. "You point fingers at her because she is different, because she does not fit into your perfect little image. But I tell you this, she works harder than all of you, and I will not let lies destroy her." His gaze swept over the workers, his eyes cold as ice. Many of them lowered their heads, unable to meet his stare. The receptionist trembled, trying to keep her face calm, but sweat beaded on her forehead. Her plan was falling apart. The boss picked up the documents, holding them high. "These were planted. Do not think I am blind." His eyes narrowed on the crowd, resting briefly on the receptionist. She flinched, her stomach twisting with fear. He placed the papers on his desk with a hard slap. "If I find out who is responsible, they will regret it." His tone carried a promise, not just words. The room was silent, the workers frozen in place. Lyra stood quietly, her chest still rising and falling with fast breaths. Her hands shook, but not from fear alone. For the first time, she had seen someone fight for her. Not just with words, but with power. The human boss had shielded her when everyone else wanted to see her fall. The whispers returned later, but they were softer now, uncertain, mixed with doubt. Some still looked at her with suspicion, but others began to wonder if maybe she was not what the rumors said. The receptionist, however, burned with rage inside. She had failed once, but she swore to herself it would not be the last time she tried to destroy the girl. And Lyra, though shaken, began to realize something. The boss was not protecting her out of pity. He knew something about her, something she herself did not yet understand. And the truth, whatever it was, would soon come out. The office was still tense after the false accusation against Lyra. Workers avoided her in the hallways, some whispering behind her back, others staring at her with suspicion. She felt their eyes, their doubt, but what weighed heavier on her heart was the question that never left her mind. Why had the human boss defended her so fiercely? He had not hesitated, had not doubted her even for a second. He had spoken with certainty, as if he knew something no one else did. That night, she could not sleep. Her mind replayed the scene over and over, the guards dragging her, the workers pointing at her, and then his voice cutting through like a blade, commanding everyone to stop. She hugged herself tightly, lying awake, wondering if she truly belonged here or if she was only safe because of him. The next day, the answer began to unfold. The boss called her into his office. The room was quiet, the walls lined with shelves of glowing files and maps of distant colonies. He stood by the large window, his hands behind his back, staring at the city lights. When she entered, her legs shook. She thought maybe he would scold her, or perhaps send her away to avoid more trouble. He turned to face her. His eyes were steady, his voice calm but heavy with meaning. "Do you know who you are?" The question stunned her. She blinked, confused. I'm Lyra. Just Lyra." He stepped closer, placing a small tablet on the desk between them. With a wave of his hand, records appeared on the glowing screen. Old files, worn with age, carrying symbols she had never seen before. "You are more than that," he said. "You are the last of your people." Her breath caught in her throat. She stared at the files, her chest rising and falling fast. "My people?" she whispered. "What do you mean?" He tapped the screen. Images flashed, pictures of colonies long gone, worlds reduced to rubble, faces of aliens with the same eyes as hers. Years ago, a colony was destroyed in the war. Most believed no survivors remained, but they were wrong. You survived. Lyra shook her head, her hands trembling. "No, I don't remember. I was just a child wandering the streets. I don't even know where I came from." "Of course you don't," the boss replied. "Trauma buried it, but the truth is here. You have a gift, Lyra. A rare skill your people were known for. You can see machines not as metal and wires, but as living systems. You understand them without training. That is why you fixed the great machine when others failed. That is why you stayed up late, repairing panels no one asked you to touch." Her knees weakened, and she gripped the edge of the desk. Memories flickered in her mind, broken pieces she never understood. Flashes of fire, the sound of screaming, the sight of ships falling from the sky. She pressed her hands to her head, shaking. "No, I can't. I don't want to remember." The boss's voice softened, but his words carried power. "You must, because whether you accept it or not, others will learn what you are, and when they do, they will try to take you. Your gift is too valuable, too dangerous to leave free." Lyra's heart pounded painfully. She wanted to run, to escape the truth, but deep inside, she knew he was right. The whispers, the hatred, the fear, she had seen it in the eyes of her co-workers already. If they knew the truth, if they knew she carried something rare, they would not just mock her. They would try to control her, maybe even sell her. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Then why did you hire me? Why not leave me in the streets where no one would notice me?" The boss looked at her, his gaze unwavering. "Because I've seen eyes like yours before. I fought beside your people once. They were brave, loyal, and brilliant. I could not let the last of them be lost to the gutter. You deserve more than that. You deserve to live." Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them away quickly. She had never heard words like that before. All her life, people had called her worthless, trash, nothing. But here stood someone telling her she was something rare, something worth protecting. Still, fear gnawed at her chest. "If they find out, if the others know." He cut her off, his tone sharp now. "That is why you must be careful. You will continue working here, learning, growing, but you must not reveal too much. Do you understand?" She nodded slowly, though her heart still shook. As she left the office, the truth echoed in her mind. She was not just a poor alien girl in patched clothes. She was the last of a lost people, carrying a gift that others would kill to possess. And now, the human boss had tied his fate to hers by protecting her. But outside the office walls, danger had already begun. Unknown to her, the story of the broken machine and the strange girl who fixed it was spreading through the city. Traders whispered in markets. Officials spoke behind closed doors, and eyes she could not see were already searching for her. Her gift, her secret, was no longer safe. And though she tried to go on with her work as if nothing had changed, a shadow followed her steps now. Every laugh behind her back felt sharper. Every glance from her coworkers felt heavier. She knew the truth could not stay hidden forever. Her fingers brushed against the badge on her chest. She thought of the boss's words. "You are the last of your people. You have a gift. You must be careful." Fear pressed down on her, but another feeling rose inside too. Something new, something strong. For the first time, she wanted to fight to stay, to prove she was more than what they thought. But she also knew one thing with chilling certainty. Sooner or later, someone would come for her. And when that day arrived, she would have to decide whether to run or to stand her ground. The city hummed with lights and movement as Lyra walked toward the docking bay. She had learned quickly over the past weeks. Every step she took was cautious, her eyes scanning every shadow, every corner. She had discovered small clues, stray messages, half-heard conversations, whispers in the night that someone, somewhere, was searching for her. Her gift made her special, but it also made her a target. She could sense the tension around machines, the way energy flowed in ways no ordinary person could. That sensitivity told her when danger lurked, and she had been learning to trust it like a sixth sense. The docking bay was massive, with ships of every size and shape lined up under the bright glow of overhead lights. Sparks flew from maintenance bots repairing hulls, and the hum of engines filled the air like a living pulse. Lyra's eyes moved over each ship carefully. The human boss had told her she would need to leave soon for a special assignment, one that would test everything she had learned. She was not only to repair a ship, but to prepare it for a mission into unknown space. Her heart raced at the thought. The responsibility felt heavy, but for the first time, she felt alive. A figure appeared at the edge of the bay. It was the boss, standing with his usual calm posture, but his eyes were sharper, more alert than usual. "You're ready for this," he said without preamble. His voice carried authority, but also a hint of trust that she had not experienced before. "The ship is prepped. The path is set, but you must stay focused. Out there, no one will protect you except yourself." Lyra nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. She had spent weeks learning to control her gift, to read the hum of machines, to anticipate problems before they happened. Yet the thought of being alone, navigating a ship through uncharted sectors, made her stomach twist. She had never felt so exposed. Yet she could also feel the strength in her own hands, the confidence in her mind, and the quiet determination rising from her chest. She would not fail. She stepped onto the ship, the metallic floor cold beneath her feet. The interior glowed with soft blue lights, panels flickering with unreadable codes and strange symbols. She ran her fingers over the control console, feeling the energy pulse like a heartbeat beneath her touch. Her eyes widened. Machines spoke to her in ways she could understand, and for a brief moment, she felt a connection unlike anything she had ever experienced. This was not just a machine. It was a living partner, and it trusted her. The boss stayed behind, watching her, his face unreadable. "Remember," he said, "trust your instincts. Your gift is rare. Use it wisely. And no matter what happens, do not let fear control you." Lyra nodded again, her hands already moving over the controls. The ship hummed in response, as if acknowledging her authority. She took a deep breath, calming her racing heart. Every wire, every circuit, every glowing panel seemed to come alive under her touch. She was no longer the frightened girl in patched clothes who had walked into the office weeks ago. She was a navigator, a mechanic, a protector of something far greater than herself. As she initiated the launch sequence, a warning light flashed on the main panel. Sensors indicated movement outside the bay, near the perimeter. Her heart skipped a beat. She focused, extending her awareness, letting her gift guide her. Through the hum of the ship and the glow of the lights, she detected them. Figures moving with intent, searching. Pirates. Mercenaries. People who wanted her gift, who would not stop at anything to capture her. She pressed a few buttons, rerouted power, and opened a hatch on the starboard side. Sparks flew as the energy shifted. The figures outside paused, confused by the sudden interference. Lyra seized the moment, She activated the launch thrusters, and the ship lifted smoothly, cutting through the darkness like a shadow escaping a predator. The bay lights shrank beneath her as the city blurred into streaks of neon and metal. Lyra felt a thrill of freedom and fear at the same time. She was airborne, untethered, yet pursued. Her hands moved with purpose over the controls, reading the ship as if it were an extension of her own body. Every panel, every sensor, every mechanical hum whispered instructions she could follow perfectly. Outside, the stars spread across the black sky like scattered jewels. Lyra's eyes widened in awe. She had seen stars before, but never like this. So close, so alive. And yet, she could not allow herself to be distracted. The threat was real, and they were not far behind. She twisted a dial, activated stealth protocols, and watched the radar. The pursuers were fast, skilled, but not gifted. She had something they could never understand, a connection with the ship itself. Time stretched. Minutes felt like hours as she navigated asteroid fields, dodged drifting debris, and adjusted course through uncharted routes. Her hands never faltered, her focus never wavered. Every challenge was a puzzle, every obstacle a test of her skill and courage. And with each success, she felt her confidence grow. She was not just surviving, she was mastering, thriving, becoming something more than anyone had imagined. A sudden warning blared. A massive ship appeared ahead, blocking her path. Lyra's heart pounded. She could sense its energy, feel its intent. It was not just any ship, it was a vessel designed to hunt, to trap. She took a deep breath, remembering the boss's words. Trust your instincts. Use your gift wisely. She reached out with her mind, feeling the rhythms of her ship, reading its pulse. A plan formed, and she acted without hesitation. The ship twisted, glided, and surged with a sudden burst of speed. The pursuing vessel struggled to follow, its engine straining, its trajectory erratic. Lyra's breath caught in a mixture of fear and exhilaration. She had outmaneuvered them, relying on instinct and skill rather than brute force. Her gift, once a secret she feared would betray her, had become her greatest weapon. As the city lights faded into distant memory, Lyra looked back briefly. She knew this was only the beginning. Many dangers awaited in the vastness of space, challenges that would test her mind, her skill, and her courage. But she was ready. She had survived, learned, and grown. She had a purpose now, a reason to keep moving forward, to fight, to protect, and to discover who she truly was. And in that moment, alone in the vast expanse of stars, Lyra realized something powerful. She was not just the last of her people. She was more. She was the future, a force no one could contain, a being who had finally claimed her destiny. The hum of the ship beneath her hands was no longer a sound of machinery. It was a song of freedom, of power, and of hope. And with every pulse, she knew she would never be powerless again.